excited to introduce Olivier Crespin, co-founder and CEO of Zand. Great to have you on board with us.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here today.
Okay, great. And so for those who don't know Zand, it's actually the first digital bank to provide both retail and corporate services in the UAE. So is that globally or is that UAE specifically?
So right now we are launching in UAE, but we are the first bank globally to offer both corporate and retail or digital way from day one.
Amazing. And so when we say the first digital bank to offer corporate and retail services, what does digital banking mean?
Okay, digital bank is really you have two words, obviously, digital and bank. But I always say that if you want to build a digital bank, don't try to build the bank. So it's different from a bank from the way we build it. So we build, in fact, a platform with a banking license that allows us to connect with people and help them in a day-to-day life or to achieve their lifetime goals, right? To be there where the client is at any point in time.
Of course, that's great. And so, the question I always ask whenever we start these podcasts, just because we get so many different answers depending on whether in paytech, insurtech, regtech, is what does fintech mean to you?
Oh, fintech is really you have the combination of two great things, right? Technology applied to finance. And so the fintech company or company will try to find solution to support people, right? So you know that most of the activity of a human being end up in a financial transaction or start with a financial transaction. In fact, there's like a survey that says that 70% of any human activity end up into a financial transaction. So how can you be there to support people in their life, right? To be able to come up with solutions that are going to be relevant to them and add value to everybody. So fintech, and the difference between a fintech and a bank that is using fintech solution is that a bank will have a banking license and a fintech will not have. But no, you can do a lot of support, a lot of product without necessarily having a license. But you can combine with a bank so you can bring it to the majority of people.
That's great. And so, that's a very important point is that 70% you said of our activity has some sort of financial transaction.
Yes, like for example, to come here for this meeting, I have to buy a jacket, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So when you think about it, the first time I saw this survey, I said, wow, that's maybe exaggerated. But when you think about it, pretty much everything we do has a financial transaction into it.
That's great. And so fintech, I guess, in a way, somehow affects 70% of human lives.
Exactly. I think so.
Yeah,
definitely.
And that's the idea, right?
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. And so, how did you come up with the idea for Zand? I mean, we've been having traditional banks. Traditional banks are evolving with, tap to pay. Now you have buy now, pay later through traditional banks. So how did you say, no, we need a digital bank in this audience?
Okay, so I think first of all, it's not my first digital bank. I've already launched two or three digital banks, one in India, one in Indonesia, and one in Vietnam. And I think that why here in UAE, why do we need a digital bank? And I think that when you look at the agenda, the digital agenda of the country is excellent, very ambitious. But to be able to support this agenda, you need a native digital bank.
Sure.
Because you need to be able to connect with all the new digital players, to connect to the ecosystem. And that you cannot do it if you're not native digital.
Of course.
And not only native digital bank, but also native data kind of organization where we have built all the analytic infrastructure from day one, which is a big advantage.
That's great. And so Zand specifically, because as you mentioned, you've set up two digital banks before.
Sure, yeah.
Now you're setting up Zand. So I guess it stands to reason that there might be another digital bank coming somewhere down the line. What's different about Zand? How does Zand set itself apart from whatever else may be in the market or whatever else may come to the market?
Okay, so I think there are a few areas where we differentiate ourselves, right? First of all, is what I mentioned is fully native digital bank. So that means that all our process front and back are on digital, right? Yeah. So you don't have the legacy that a traditional bank can have. So you can as well leverage the latest technology. So for example, all our application on the cloud. on two active data center between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Not many banks have this. You can replicate your solution. It's very scalable as well. We are focused a lot on analytics to make sure we can identify the right product, right solution for clients. And we are focusing on products that can be delivered digitally only.
Yeah.
So for example, if you ask me mortgage, are you going to offer mortgage? No, not for the time being, because mortgage is very manual process right now. It's very difficult to digitalize it. But the day we can do tokenized mortgage, by all means, we are going to go into it. So this is the kind of solution I'm going to try to find to be able to, again, support the people wherever they are.
That's amazing. And how it's a lot more flexible, I guess you could say. It's a lot quicker moving. And you said even, I guess moving into tokenized mortgages makes things a lot easier for anybody looking to get a mortgage.
Yeah, and that's also one of the big differences, that we don't try to build everything ourselves, right? So because we understand that every product requires a lot of time if you want to get the optimum customer experience. So the way we did the bank is we build it very differently from any other bank. We build a platform, not a bank. That means that we can connect with different players. So at our middleware level, we can integrate some fintech who have solutions that can be offered to our clients. So it's like, you imagine this platform when you can plug a lot of solutions that we make available to clients. Yeah. And that we do it within the regulation, right? The central bank, we are regulated by central bank.
Yeah.
And so we are combining both, right? The platform, which is really the very digital, latest technology, etc., with at the same time the management of risk that is associated to a license.
That's great. And so you were mentioning, you are regulated by a central bank. You're a lot more flexible. You're basically a platform, and you can plug in solutions within that platform. You don't have to redo the whole thing. You can actually just optimize the platform as time goes on. Is there room for traditional banks in the future, or will digital banks completely take over the market?
I think most of the experience will become digital. I think the banks still relevant as long as they can digitalize.
Yeah.
Because it's what not because they have to, but it's because the people.
Right.
It's what the customer wants. After COVID, etc. Now everybody, right, is expecting to. People want to save time. They don't want things simple. They don't want to waste time, in a branch. They want to be recognized. They want to get access to best product. All of that. I think what the bank, the essence of banking, still needed. And what is a bank?
Right.
And I think if you ask me what is a bank, for me a bank is an entity that is managing risk. All kind of risk. Risk on a client, risk on a loan, risk on a transaction, giving peace of mind of people. And that, I think, will still need it, but it may take different kind of form, and it will become more and more digital.
Yeah, and that's actually very interesting, because your definition of bank is managing risks, and my definition of bank is a vault. So you put your money in the bank, it's in the bank. You can take it to the bank, means it's safe, and that's where the bank is. And as we move away from physical currency and more towards digital currency and even cryptocurrency, there's not as much need for that vault anymore. It's you have ownership of your money. That doesn't mean you need to have physical touch on that money, I guess.
Exactly. You don't need to have a touch, and we want as well to to be a kind of a bridge between fiat and crypto, right? So because right now when you buy crypto is quite easy, but when you want to bring back crypto into fiat currency is where
it's a little trickier, right?
It's more difficult, right? So we would like to be able to support that by doing the right screening about the token or the crypto, etc. And that's also other areas that we want to really focus on is to be the link between centralized finance and decentralized finance.
Sure.
Because I really, again, right, DeFi, many products can be offered on a decentralized way, but what is needed when you look at what's happening in DeFi right now is you need to simplify the experience, because right now you need to be a geek, right, to be able to, for example, if you want to buy a commodity token, right, you need to do a lot of open an account in MetaMask, convert
Right,
it
get
from
your wallet
Ethereum
and all
to
that, yeah.
Polygon, then go do your KYC in tokenies and go and do an exchange. So can we simplify this for client, and can we as well bring some kind of trust into decentralized networks that potentially the bank can bring by doing due diligence, by reviewing the different players in this organization. So that's the area where slowly, obviously, with at the same pace as the regulators, is that the area we are ready to really explore.
Yeah, great. And so that's one of the common themes that we're talking about on this podcast, from fintechs to banks, and whether banks and regulators and large institutions are the friend or the enemy of fintech innovators. And you're kind of somewhere in between, that you're a digital bank, so you're an innovator, but also sort of a bank.
Yeah, but also I would say a big friend of the innovators of fintech, because the offering we can offer our client will depend on how well we're able to partner with fintech. So what we do, right, when for any product we want to offer, first decision, do we want to build or do you want to buy? Right?
Correct.
So if you want to buy or white label, etc., obviously we are going to go to a fintech, right? And we are going to integrate. If something, because strategically is very important, is going to help us to differentiate ourselves, and because we don't think anybody has done it before, maybe we are going to build.
Sure.
But I think that overall, I think I would say 80% of what we're offering are provided by fintech.
Yeah, that's great.
So I think that's we are orchestrator of technology, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, and so earlier I asked, is there room in the future for traditional banks? And you said yes, if they digitize. Is that in some way a threat to current digital banks that are starting up now? If the traditional banks digitize, will they not just have the bigger share of the market?
So I think the market is big enough, and there are so many needs that. In fact, many people ask me why we are getting a new license here. Why there is a new digital bank coming up like Zand in UAE? First of all, is what I mentioned previously, because digital agenda is very, very big, and we understand that you need probably to be native to speak the same language as a new digital player, and also to be able to integrate with big corporate as well, on converting themselves into digital corporate. But I think as well from a government point of view, what they really understand is that not only you create a digital bank which is going to show the way, but you create emulation. You create some kind of other banks to try to pick up. Because if you are in a market where there is no competition and nobody is coming with any digital solution, nobody is going to evolve.
Of course.
And I think that the question is, the market is big, and as well, if a model works well, it can be expanded in other countries, in other regions. And at the end of the day, I think there is space to be able to meet the customer needs. So for quite some time, in fact.
Sure. And so, as you mentioned that, Zand is a native platform, which now it can actually adapt other fintech solutions within that platform. What do you see as the next wave, or where is it going, other than from what it is now? What's happening in 5 years, 10 years that you see in the market evolving when it comes to banking or digital banking?
So many things are evolving, and in fact, I'm impressed with the speed, right? It's going, right? You see a lot of new players in the market. What I mentioned previously about the decentralized finance.
Sure.
So I see more and more integration. I see a lot of the previous solution, particularly on the corporate banking side, like security services, trade finance, etc., being done in a blockchain. And that's going to be a real revolution. We have been talking about it for some time.
A little bit, a little long now.
But no, it's really, I can see it's the right time. Because the solution on there, if you look at even what happened recently with the crypto winter, right? When some company over leverage, but when a margin call happened, it happened automatically, right? There were no discussion. I've been in traditional bank for many years, And when you have to margin call a client, a corporate client, say, give me 3 days, give me 2 days.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of this solution implemented into the traditional products that we have, like security services, you can really reach true delivery versus payment exactly at the same time with a smart contract. So that means you don't necessarily need to have credit facility if your payment on so it can change things. If you reapply, we look at the product we have, apply blockchain, is going to be a real revolution.
Mm-hmm. That's
I
great.
saw the NFT obviously, which is coming.
Sure.
And some people say NFT is like a picture, right, or something like that. But in fact, NFT is much more than that.
It's anything digital that you can own.
It's a smart contract,
Mm-hmm.
right, at the end of the day, right? So you can, your imagination is a limit on what you can do with this.
That's great. And so, going a little bit into the blockchain and crypto and NFTs, which we typically say for our future Blockchain Summit podcast, but with the fintech, is very interconnected, especially with crypto. Is crypto and decentralized finance the future of what everyone will use, or will it always coexist with traditional finance?
I think it will have a coexistence for quite some time,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately, I think the technology, if you're able to add to the technology the trust, some kind of governance, it will overtake the traditional way of doing things. But you need to add, what is missing is how we demonstrate through decentralized finance, we also manage the risk. We need some kind of regulation,
Mm-hmm.
because it's if you're not regulated, you can start with good intention, but it's going to end up very badly for everybody. So you need to make sure people are aware of the risk. You have limit on what you can leverage or what you cannot.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're able to do that, it will take over, right?
Sure. And we've talked a little bit about the speed of fintech and how quickly things are evolving. How does Zand plan to stay ahead of what's happening? We see, within the next 5 years, 10 years, everything will look different than it does today.
Yes.
So the same as 5 years ago, it did not look the way it does today.
Yeah.
How does Zand make sure that they're at the top of the game whenever it looks completely different?
Yes. So from day one, we made sure that we can pivot at any point in time, right? So what does that mean is that not creating legacy. I always say on day one you don't have a legacy, but on day two you have a legacy. So we start without legacy. But in order not to create legacy, each time we add, for example, a new solution or new fintech, we follow a very strict, rigid architecture design, making sure that any solution we plug, like for example PFM, we are not creating a lot interdependency with other solutions. So if one day, it's like the iPhone, if there is a better solution, you should be able to remove it. Sure. Obviously, only this function will not work, but the rest will keep working. So be able to always to change, to evolve your technology. And that's why, one of the issues with traditional bank is that they have a big capex when they start. So they invest for the next 10 years in a solution. For us, we move from capex to opex, so we pay per use.
Sure.
So the day we want to replace, we are able to replace solutions. So we believe that even the core banking we can replace very easily. So it's very modular kind of things that should allow us to be able to be always relevant.
Plug, play, remove, replace.
Exactly.
It becomes a lot easier when it comes to...
A lot easier. Because solution, we keep evolving, right? Very, very quickly, and we need to plug and play.
Yeah, and you need to make space in the organization for these things to happen. Otherwise, you can't move. And new things come into play, and you just don't have the space for it. And you say, maybe not this time, maybe next time. Then your competitor takes over, and that's their advantage and your disadvantage, right? And so, we're obviously very excited to have, players like you in the UAE, evolving the way fintech is being adapted in the UAE. I've been here only 8 years, and from the time that I started, whenever you would go to the food court in the mall and they still only accepted cash, to now you can buy now, pay later, you can tap to pay.
Yes.
Some people are taking crypto. Things have evolved tremendously in these 8 years, and I think it's because of players like you. And I'm excited to see where it is in 5 years. I believe that when I go back home to the US, UAE is now more evolved than a lot of the merchants, what they have to offer there. So do you believe that you've just identified a gap in the UAE and moved forward with it, or is the UAE just the perfect place to implement your system?
I think the UAE is a perfect place for this, right? When you see the thinking process here, and one of the latest thing is, VARA, Virtual Asset Regulatory Authorities, that has been established here. I think is pretty unique, right? Nobody has done it before. So you can see between VARA, ESCA, Central Bank, I think everything is there from a support to be able to be successful.
That's great.
So we are really working all together to make sure that in UAE we can experiment, implement, design new things that nobody is able to do in other countries.
Yeah, UAE is moving very fast. I mean, I know that by the time the US implemented a bill as far as crypto regulation, VARA was already established, and it's now a regulatory authority, whereas other places are just starting
thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely, and things are moving very fast. As you might know, VARA is actually associated with World Trade Center and the Future Blockchain Summit. So they're actually hosting a roundtable at the summit specifically through VARA. So we're very, very excited about what VARA is doing. We're very excited about working with VARA, and because of these sort of things, we're excited about the UAE.
We are very excited as well working with VARA and so on. It's amazing, right? That's why I'm saying, it's evolving very fast. Maybe 9 months ago we couldn't have this kind of conversation, but now, we can talk about all this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the UAE is genuinely, the fintech hub of the Middle East. I want to say, if my statistics are correct, 24% of all fintechs in the region are in the UAE specifically. The government is funneling lots of money into startups. They're funneling a lot of money into fintechs. Most of the investments through the region have gone into fintech. And as you mentioned, fintech touches 70% of everything that we do.
Yes.
So it's super huge. And it's, as we work towards the future, the Fintech Surge in October 10th through 13th at the Dubai World Trade Center. It's not just a matter of us putting on an event for fintech, but we're in the fintech hub of the region. It's a huge place to operate fintech, and we're putting on the largest fintech show in the region. So, in your opinion, what do you see the value of shows like Fintech Surge, and what do you expect to see when you come to Fintech Surge?
I think the value of putting together shows like that is really creating a community and engaging with the community. Is where when you meet other people that new ideas are coming up. So I think that's one big part, right? A lot of things happen when you go to this kind of event, where coffee break, right? People, you do this, you do that. In fact, I found a few fintech through this kind of event, right? Yeah. Things that you don't even think exist, that you have been thinking about, and you are very surprised to see that some people have been thinking about it. So that's really for this networking, creating the community, the engagement, knowing what's going on in a market, we're thinking about what is add a tremendous value to everybody. So I think it's a win-win for everybody, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really something that's very important to us as we organize this show, is that the people that are looking for fintechs to be implemented within their solutions, whether it's the digital bank, whether it's the institutions, regular authorities, traditional banks that are trying to find better ways to service their customers, they come to these shows looking for the fintechs to offer that solution, whereas fintechs come to the shows looking for people that need their solution.
Correct.
So a lot of shows, it kind of sometimes can be salespeople talking to salespeople, whereas we place a big emphasis on connecting the right people who are looking for the right people, and I feel like we do a very good job of that with these sort of shows.
In fact, this is very good.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Olivier. I think that we really touched on the importance of digital banking and why UAE is a great place, and we really look forward to seeing you at Fintech Surge in October.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Fintech Surge podcast. Be sure to join us live October 10th through October 13th for Fintech Surge at the Dubai World Trade Center alongside GITEX. Register to visit at fintechsurge.com and be sure to subscribe to our social media channels. Until next time.